Hey, welcome back to our Murder at Castle Nathria Achievement Hunter series. Today, we've prepared a carefully tailored lineup of quick, efficient, and at times peculiar decks to decimate the Priest through Warrior achievements. Let's get into it.
This should be interesting.
So that you don't have to crawl through each challenge in just one mode, we'll be introducing one standard and one wild deck per achievement. If there's a specific achievement you're looking to harvest, there are timestamps and deck codes for each achievement covered in this video's description and the comments section. Without further ado, let's begin our waltz through these achievements. Let's start off with the achievement asking us to do what we'd be happy to do almost anytime the opportunity arises: grabbing a copy of our opponent's hero card with identity theft. With the popularity of hero cards, this one isn't too tough to pull off just by playing identity theft enough times. But both of these decks have the option of donating a hero card to the opponent with Theatar moments before you play identity theft to almost guarantee achievement completion. If you need a few extra shots at identity theft per game, discovering extra copies in standard and using shadow visions or educated Elekk in wild are somewhat effective strategies. Have fun assuming your opponent's identity and demolishing them with their own cards. So, how do we do 300 damage with the light? It burns quickly. We buff minions to gargantuan size moments before burning them to oblivion. Sometimes it's actually more effective to buff an enemy minion a bunch and then burn it. If you do go that route, you can go ahead and summon a huge copy with Taunt on your side with Boon of the Ascended, but you will need 2 extra damage or a final attack buff to ensure the slight health buff from Boon doesn't let your opponent keep the minion. As you might guess from the names of the decks, I expected using the light it burns on buffed minions to be self-destructive, but both decks had over a 50% win rate while providing excellent progress towards this achievement, either by burning opponents' minions or damaging our own massive ones after attacking with or copying them. Best of luck quickly burning through this one. The max progress a single Clean the Scene can provide is 14, so you will have to play it at least 6 times. In Wild, Mad Summoner provides the perfect board for swift progress, especially if you've infused Clean the Scene. And Educated Elekk will immediately shuffle an extra copy of it into your deck, which will remain an infused copy if the one you play is infused. You do need a discount from Insight, Palm Reading, or Thaurissan to play Summoner and Clean the Scene together, but it worked exceptionally well in testing. And in Standard, Clean the Scene killing Korak brings him back right away, while often cleaning up your opponent's board. So if Masked Reveler, Amulet, and Zyrella fill your board with Koraks, and maybe Midas for the infused version, you can often get a ton of progress with a single Clean the Scene while almost immediately refilling your side of the board. It was pretty fun to make opponents rage at the minions Clean the Scene missed while getting progress on this one. Enjoy. Which secret is the worst rogue secret of all time? While Shadow Clone is certainly a contender, I think Kidnap takes the prize. I'm honestly happy when I realize an opponent played Kidnap, as it often means I get to replay my Battlecry minions. Triggering 50 Kidnaps actually wasn't too terrible, thanks to the occasional extra copy from Sketchy Stranger, before revealing we were a rogue, or Azshara's ring copying it. Though I should note that Azshara's ring is currently bugged, that if you play any spell after equipping it as a secret, it keeps transforming in the secret slot, even into non-secret spells. Yeah. So if you do use it that way, just don't play another spell until the kidnapping gets triggered. And yes, there were a few games where Hanar donated an extra copy of Kidnap for additional progress, but it wasn't quite as consistent as I'd initially hoped. Still, the decks were fun to play, even though it felt like we were helping our opponent almost every time we got progress towards this achievement. Good luck muffling your own screams at the extra battlecry value you're donating to opponents as you tackle this one. Necrolord Draka makes the cut in all 4 of the decks we're introducing for this achievement and the next. But the 2 decks here are a little more focused towards ensuring you can reliably play the 11 or more cards needed before dropping Draka for a massive dagger. All the extra coins from triggering Loan Shark's Death Rattle with the various tools in the deck make it a straightforward process if you do own a copy of her. Without a copy of Draka in your collection, I imagine this will be a tough one to pull off in arena or duels, as you'll need a fair bit of card draw alongside quite a few cheap cards on the turn you play Draka. Maybe a bit of extreme luck with a Holy Maki roll on the same turn as a couple other invitations from the Countess in Pure Paladin could do it. That'd be a stretch, but not completely impossible. If you do have her, this achievement was smooth enough to complete before the buff to Edwin, so even after reverting him to pre-buff cost and stats, he's still a great tool for churning through your deck. Have fun stabbing opponents with a massive sword. It's definitely a sword at that point. While the size doesn't matter, at least in this context, summoning 150 ghosts from a location with only 2 durability is a frustratingly long task. The task is made all the more arduous by the fact that there's no reliable way to get additional copies of locations in order to speed this up. But both decks here are running Dispossessed Souls in hopes that you might manage to get an extra copy of the second graveyard while it's still in your deck. In Wild, you can increase the odds of additional graveyards via a convoluted chain of events. Put the graveyard onto the bottom of your deck with Sphere of Sapience, and then, a little while later, dredge the graveyard to the top of your deck with Tuskar Trawler, immediately prior to playing Mimic Pod. It did work out a few times in testing, but I'm not quite certain if all the extra effort for extra progress per game actually saved any time versus playing a more aggressive, draw-heavy version like we introduced for Draka's achievement. But it spiced things up across the lengthy grind for this one. Best of luck knocking this one out before you need your own Crypt. How hard is it to fill your entire board with totems? With help from an infused party favor totem, or splitting axe and runic carvings in Wild, not hard at all. If you make sure all your non-totem minions have died, and chuck all the totems you've managed to gather out there at once, you should be able to hear this achievement falling over in no time. Good luck. Baroness Vashj is one of the few legendaries from Castle Nathria with a minion tag, so it's possible to discover extra copies of her from Amalgam of the Deep if she hasn't joined your collection. That also means that Crush Claw Enforcer can pull her from your deck more reliably if she's been hiding from you. Other than that, there's not much to say about this one, except to hit her with every transformation card you've got in your collection to flood the board with her. It was kind of funny to have an opponent's mass polymorph give credit towards this as well. Have fun summoning a random stew of minions with Vash for this one. Okay, I'd really like to know whose bright idea at Blizzard it was to make so many of the location-based achievements require such massive numbers of procs. Seriously. As with the others, you might discover an extra copy of Muck Pools with Dispossessed Souls, and Elementary Reaction in Wild can occasionally grant you an extra copy. At least Muck Pools has 3 durability, so it doesn't feel quite as long to hunt this one down as the Rogue achievement does. Best of luck not going off the deep end yourself as you grind through this one. Speaking of long grindy achievements, an impressive feat requires playing Imp King Rafam at least 50 times. He doesn't have to be infused to get progress, but if he is, there's a better chance of the imps he summons distracting the opponent long enough for Zola to give you an extra copy of him. But Youthful Brewmaster and Expired Merchant can also give you the opportunity to trigger his battle cry a few extra times per game. If Rafam isn't fully infused when Expired Merchant grabs him, the copies you get back will have 0 of 5 infusion progress. So keep that in mind if he's almost fully infused when you're wanting to copy him. And Grim Rally can help avoid silence or transform effects from opponents when needed. It truly is an impressively long grind to complete this one, but if you keep at it, you'll finish eventually. Good luck. You probably finished ReIMPforcements while grinding through Rafam's achievement. If you don't have a copy of Rafam, in which case you can swap him for a draw card, or you amazingly avoided ever drawing 7 cards with Imp ending Catastrophe, both of these decks are overflowing with imps to flood the board and draw 7 or 8 cards with a spell. You don't have to have space in hand for all 7 cards, so ripping the draw as soon as you have 6 imps on board will give you an easy achievement complete. The number of imps may seem impractical, but they're designed for all of us who are impatient to be done with the achievement. Let's move on before the number of puns becomes improper. The final Warlock achievement was actually a lot of fun to do, particularly with Lady Darkvein, as her Shades dying meets the condition for summoning 2 Twirling Shadows. But Tamsin Rome and Educated Elekk helped speed along the progress for this one as well. And the Shadow Wall of Taunts often helped buy time to ensure we could get maximum progress towards the achievement each game. So it was finished quite quickly. Have fun forcing opponents to tango with a wall of Twirling Shadows. +7/+7 in buffs from Anima Extractor is pretty simple to complete if you've got a few minions on board and a whirlwind effect or 2. The standard deck here gives a head start on the Remornia achievement by using Sourfang to revive and trigger Whirling Combatant's Frenzy alongside Anima Extractor to buff Remornia to quite a large size. To the Front allows you to play 2 Extractors with Sourfang for crazy buffs. And over in Wild, we decided to have a bit of fun with Bomb Wranglers while using Risky Skipper as the simplest multi-whirlwind generator. Although there are quite a few different ways to play and win with each deck, you'll probably be done with the achievement after 1 or 2 games. Enjoy. With Rush and the ability to swap back and forth between a minion and a weapon, most of the time you play Remornia, you'll get at least 12 damage. But how do we get lots of extra damage quickly? Why not buff it up like crazy while it's still in hand? And maybe consider throwing a Reflecto Engineer in there to swap its attack and health / durability. As both decks run a decent card draw package and Talon to help find it more reliably, it's often possible to play a partially buffed Remornia on turn 7, even with a 40 card deck. However, the extra health usually buys time to buff Remornia a couple extra ways to ensure even more value. As long as the opponent doesn't play Theatar to, almost always, guaranteed it seems, steal Remornia. One of you should certainly get a bunch of progress with the Living Blade per game with these decks. Good luck. What's likely the fastest way to finish Veni Vidi Vici, that's how I pronounce it at least, would be to chuck 2 copies of Conqueror's Banner into a deck with 28 other of the most expensive cards you're able to play, and full mulligan for the banners. But that seemed rather boring, and almost guarantees a 100% loss rate. So, for a slight sacrifice to nearly guaranteed progress, we built these greedy big minion decks which still draw at least 2 cards per banner against most opponents. Conqueror's Greed had a surprising 50% win rate across 6 games, while Reveler's Banner was, unsurprisingly, only a 33% win rate across 12 games. Still, almost all of the 18 games it took to knock this out between both decks were quite fun, as I searched for ways to stay alive and swing the game back in my favor by cheating out massive minions. So a bit slow but fun with these decks, or as swift as possible with 2 Conqueror's Banner and the most expensive cards you own. Pick your poison. Either way, best of luck conquering this one. And that's a wrap. If you found this helpful, drop a like. With enough partners in crime, I mean fellow achievement enthusiasts, suffocating that like button, we can kidnap the YouTube algorithm long enough to convince it to share this guide with other hunters looking to conquer these achievements. We'll be sharing strategies for extracting the rest of the Castle Nathria achievements soon, so be sure to check back or subscribe so that imp-bending guides don't get lost in the primordial wave of other content. If you have any questions or suggestions of your own, please share them in the comments. As mentioned last time, our Twitch channel is now at twitch.tv/newboldva. But it is on an indefinite hiatus as I'm focusing more on my audiobook narration and voice acting career. A simple but extremely helpful way you could support me along the journey of developing into a professional narrator and voice actor would be to subscribe to my second channel, linked in the description and comments. While there aren't any videos over there yet, starting in October, I'll be releasing one edited story narration roughly once per month. I'm currently looking for fun, copyright-free Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas stories to narrate. So if you have a request or a suggestion, go ahead and let me know in the comments. And, as always, remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.
Welcome to Revendreth.